For the 57th year, nearly 600 passionate amateur racers have gathered to select their national champions under a unique format. One race, winner take all. And for the first time in 7 years, their stage is America's National Park of Speed, Road America. Welcome to the Sports Car Club of America Runoffs, our broadcast presented by Mazda.
Hello everyone, welcome to Road America and the 57th Annual SCCA National Championship Runoffs and our coverage of Hagerty Race Days presented by Mazda. My name is Ryan Marine. Larry McLeod joins me in the broadcast booth, and we'll have Tom O'Gorman down on pit lane. We'll hear from Tom in a few moments. But first, Larry, some classes are happy just to have 19 cars. Here in Spec Miata, we've got 19 covered by just a second in qualifying, 75 total entries. It's going to be a slugfest to settle this national championship.
They're going to need every bit of these 4 miles of pavement around Road America to squeeze these 75 cars around here. This is just going to be intense. It's going to be bumper to bumper, and I literally mean bumper to bumper, because you'll see bump drafting down every one of these straightaways and through every one of these corners. And in fact, the best bump drafting you're going to see is between teammates, because when they start buddying him up, when you see somebody who knows somebody else really, really well, they'll be bump drafting through corners. They will be virtually bumping, maybe not through the kink, but just before and just after, and it's going to be amazing to watch.
And down amongst those 75 Mazda Miatas is our own Tom O'Gorman. Tom?
So, sitting here on Spec Miata Grid, how's it going, Larry and Ryan? On my right here, this is Kyle Greenhill, pole sitter. On my left, though, the green car, that is Michael Ross. You think they're starting side by side. They're actually not. Ross starts 25th, and he was less than 2 seconds off of the pole time set by Kyle Greenhill. That is just how tight this field of something like 60 Spec Miatas is. Now, also talking about teams, sure, there are drivers from teams that want to work together. There are drivers who are friends that want to work together, but there's also a new twist on this field. There are teams from the Midwest that really want to make sure that the winner of this event is from the Midwest. They're tired of the teams from everywhere else taking all of the medals. So not only pay attention to which team these drivers are driving for, pay attention to their hometowns, because I bet you those Midwesterners are going to be working together.
It's a fascinating storyline to watch. Thank you very much, Tom. You can hear as well. There's a bit of wind going into that microphone. That, too, could be a storyline for us to keep an eye on. As temperatures here in Wisconsin have crept over 60 degrees. Still a cool, brisk fall day in the upper Midwest, but a beautiful day and a beautiful setting to settle a national championship. Larry, we talked about it a little bit already. We heard from Tom there referencing our pole sitter, Kyle Greenhill, in a field full of big names, especially within the Spec Miata community, but in the road racing community as a whole. You then look at our pole sitter, Kyle, who has only one previous runoff start where he finished 26th at Indianapolis in 2017. It's going to be a completely different experience for him leading this field of hungry drivers to the green flag.
It will be, but remember that field in Indianapolis was also a massive, huge field. So finishing 26th there was certainly no small feat. But this is, as Tom he alluded to, this is protecting home turf. He's from Mundelein, Illinois, Chicago region. He wants to lead this pack to protect home turf, and his buddy in crime here, Wojtek Birdsey out of Schiller Park, Illinois, those two together worked really well in qualifying. We talked about the buddying up. They worked really well, and they want to lead this front row and to try to stay together because, again, it's all about, as Tom says, protecting Road America, protecting home turf from the outsiders.
How close was it in qualifying? Try 11 hundredths of a second between Greenhill and Birdsey. That's what separated the Tire Rack Pole Award from starting on the outside of the front row. And let's go into the team aspect of this. There are teams in all forms of racing, but maybe no more than in Spec Miata at Road America do those teams come into play, especially in road racing. This is like watching NASCAR at Talladega, except on a road course.
Yeah, because 2 cars drafting is a lot faster than drafting it with no partner at all, and you're out there by yourself, because there are at least 3 extremely long straightaways here. And even if you take the stretch between turns 7 and 8, there's another point of the track where having somebody in front and or behind you makes you a heck of a lot faster. If you're out there by yourself, you are a sitting duck. If you've got a buddy with you and you can choreograph how the two of you can make sure that you're braking braking at the right point and hitting through the corners at exactly the right moment, you do that with a trusted friend, your lap times are at least a second faster than if you're by yourself.
We talk about how close this field is, but it will separate into packs, so there is some urgency early on to try and make sure you're part of that lead group. And if you're one of the heavy hitters who did not have a good time in qualifying, like Danny Stain or Chris Haldeman, Stain starting 19th, Haldeman starting 15th, Elevan Goulart, a name that's been around for a long time, he starts back in 14th. You need to make a move, and you need to make a move early to ensure that you have a shot, because this, in all likelihood, will come down to that final run on the final lap from turn 14 to the checkered flag.
Yeah, the final run could go down to the last 3 or 4 drivers, but the breakaway pack typically, historically in this class, is around the top 9 or 10. And outside of that 10 right now, you have former champions like Elevan Goulart. You mentioned Danny Stain, who has not won this class. He's won other ones. You've got some big names that are down there. And even you look at someone who was on this grid a little while, as Tamba pointed out, Michael Ross, he was on the podium in this class last year. He's 25th on this grid. So you got some names down there that are down. They have to really work themselves to get up into that break point, into that top 10 before this field splits up. Because if you're outside of that break, you're done.
Well, with 75 cars on the entry list, we won't have time to introduce you to the entire starting field, but we will say hi to the top 20, beginning with our Tire Rack Pole Award winner, Kyle Greenhill from Illinois. He will be in that coveted first starting position with Wojtek Birdsey alongside. Jim Drago, part of that East Street Racing, really heads up that operation. He and his teammate Todd Burris make up row 2. Tyler Brown from the Milwaukee region and Conrad Sisizik from Jupiter, Florida start 5th and 6th. Justin Casey from Santa Clara, California, and Preston Artis, who is going to be making the trip down to Charlotte to compete in the NASCAR Xfinity Series race on the Roval tomorrow. He will roll off in the 8th spot, also part of that East Street Racing team. Brian Henderson from Fredericksburg, Virginia, will start 9th alongside Daniel Bender from Northbrook, Illinois. Another Illinois native, Michael Galliardo, will start 11th alongside Jonathan Davis. Rob Hines from Arlington, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., starts 13th with Elevan Goulart on his shoulder. Chris Haldeman and Matt Reynolds make up the next row in 15th and 16th. Charles McTutis from Columbia, South Carolina, starts 17th. Nicholas Bruni from Arlington, Virginia, in 18th. Danny Stain starts 19th, and Tom Brown from nearby Muskego, Wisconsin, will start in the 20th position. The challenge of this class, it certainly is there in terms of how tight the field is, the number of cars, but also you have to throw into the equation the challenge of this circuit. 14 turns at Road America, over 4 miles over the course of the lap. Those turns break down like this: 10 to the right, 4 to the left, 171 feet of elevation change. The width of this track quite narrow in portions, 28 to 32 feet around the course of this 4-mile circuit, one of North America's finest, without a doubt. Now, there has been plenty of drama, Larry, leading into this race, and we just need to go back to one of our qualifying days where the stewards weren't so happy with some of the antics that we saw. They actually sat this field down for a little while with a full field black flag because of what they were doing, trying to
as if there wasn't
manipulate.
enough tension in this whole field. Yeah, you get 75 cars out there fighting for traffic space because everyone wants to get that clean golden lap, and they're doing what you're seeing now. The problem is when it's green flag conditions on a qualifying session, if you're at the front doing the weaving and the bobbing and all that, and if you're at the back, you don't want to do that. You want to blow by, but if somebody's weaving, it created such a tense moment that the steward said, you know what, everybody, we're bringing you all in to have a talking to. And then they had a driver's meeting. It just added to the tension, and it was a bit of a moment that not everyone was thrilled about, but we're after that now, but that tension is still there, not just from that moment, but just because it's 75 cars, this is the Runoffs, this is the championship. Everyone's still trying either to win their first, or you got a handful of drivers trying to win their second, or maybe you got Jim Drago trying to be someone who can maybe win a third. Right now, he's the only one on the field who's got a second. This is going to be tense.
And great to see race fans at the back of some of these shots as well. They've come out to support road racing here at Road America all throughout the season. Here with the Runoffs, no exception. And this is one of those races where if you're not busy working on your own race car, you make sure you find a spot alongside the fence to watch the Spec Miata show because it is breathtaking.
Yeah, I'm told from Tomo down in the pits that the leaders were entering 5 when the last car exited the pits. That's how long this train is. So real quick, we had our other awards handed out earlier this week. We had the Sunoco Tuesday, 260 Tuesday, where the person on their pole qualifying time on their all the digits to the right of the decimal, whose time was closest to 260 in their class, would win 10 free gallons of Sunoco fuel. And in this field, that was Sean Hayes. And then on Wednesday, the driver that made the biggest improvement would be the breakthrough performance provided by Hawk. And in this field, that was Tyler Ladd. So he's our breakthrough performer here in Spec Miata.
And then, of course, our Tire Rack Pole Award winner, Kyle Greenhill. We talked about him earlier, relatively inexperienced. If you could try and put yourself in his position, you've got 74, 75 hungry guys starting behind you. They want the spot that you've got occupied at the moment. You've only done one runoffs before, and you're leading this field to green. What is that going to be like?
Well, I tell you what, he might be able to lean on his experience here at the June Sprint. Same track, a lot of the same field. It was him running very, very closely with Jim Drago and Preston Pardis in both Saturday and Sunday. And I talked to Preston this morning, and Preston, I asked him, I said, what do you know about this Greenhill kid? And he said, I'm a little worried because he pushed the heck out of us, and the three of us with Drago and with Pardis and Greenhill finished essentially a photo finish across the finish in one of those races. So Greenhill's got the chops. He can certainly do it. I'm sure this is a nervous moment knowing there's 74 cars behind you. What's helping him is his buddy Wojtek right next to him. It's the two of them together, I'm sure, looking over at each other, giving a bit of a thumbs up and a wink. This is going to be exciting as they are the ones that get to lead this field.
This class is known for its photo finishes. This track has produced its fair share of them as well. The opening race weekend at Road America back in September of 1955 came down to a duel between Sherwood Johnson in a Briggs Cunningham Inter D-Type Jag and Phil Hill in a Ferrari Monza. That was a photo finish at the line. We might be seeing something out of that mold in about 40 minutes time. 13 laps, 40 minutes, whichever comes first. The field coming into alignment here, coming out of Billy Mitchell Bend and into turn 14, the final turn on the track. The field in alignment now, 75 cars strong. Spec Miata about to settle their national championship at America's National Park of Speed. The front row, Kyle Greenhill and Wojtek Birdsey. Row 2, Jim Drago and Todd Burris, Tyler Brown and Conrad Sursizik from Jupiter, Florida, making up row number 3. Here comes the field, waiting for the green flag, already locking bumpers. Green flag flies. The race is on for Spec Miata. 3 wide deep in the pack, but lockstep up front as they approach turn 1 at a nice clip of speed, fanning out a little bit further behind. This is the first true test, trying to make up some ground if possible here through turn 1 to stay with that lead pack. Clean and green so far through the first turn.
I think the first car to pop it back to back was Nick Leveroni, who had won T4 at VIR last year. He wanted to get out on the outside. He was able to tuck back inside, but I'm watching here as looks like Drago wants to break up that front 2 and get in between them early on.
Not a surprise there. 2 Advanced Autosports cars taking up the front row, then 2 East Street Racing cars in row number 2 with Drago and Burris. So there is definitely an incentive to try and break up that team play if possible. Already wheels in the grass on the inside as we head down the run into turn 5 for the first time. There's a bump in the braking zone, make it 2 bumps. Greenhill has to wrangle that car back in, but he holds on to the lead.
Yeah, and looking at all that, and that one that was in the grass, that was Preston Pardis coming into 5 as he's urgent right now as Drago's off. 2
cars flying off there at the top of turn number 6. Wojtek and Drago, they're going to rejoin in the midst of that field. Yikes, that is a wild place to go off and come back on, and that's going to allow this front group of 4, 5, maybe 6 cars to make an escape, and big contact back in the pass.
That's Chris Haldeman.
And Jim Drago involved as well. 2 heavy hitters having their race go sideways here on the opening lap.
And then coming into 8 is always tense because you can get a bit of a draft off of 7, and all of a sudden people start getting really itchy to go 3, 4, 5 wide, and they did.
Saw a good look at Danny Stain leading that big pack back there. That's in the blue and orange car. He's actually swapped chassis from the first 2 days of qualifying, lost his times from those 2 days, went to this other car, and that's what qualified him in the 19th spot. He's eager to make up ground here early on, and I'm sure he, like many others, just happy to survive that wild start to the race. Greenhill still leads. I think that's now Tyler Brown from the 5th starting position, who's moved up into 2nd. There is Stain right there, getting a nice bump from behind, which is so crucial in this class. Trevor McCallion, who started 21st, looks like that group has made some progress here in the early going.
Is that Conrad Gizik right there, up there in that top 4 as well, with Todd Burris, who seems to have just hung around. And then you got Preston Pardis there at the number 42.
So for Todd Burris, he lost his teammate there in Jim Drago. We were talking about that earlier, but the good news is reinforcements are on the way. Preston Pardis, also part of that East Street team, and he's coming, so hopes Burris, to come help the effort at the front of the field. Already a lot of bump drafting going on, that defensive line down by the pit wall as well. This is how it's going to be for 13 laps. What do you think of that first lap? That's enough to take your breath away.
Absolutely, and we knew that I was thinking that 5 would be a bit of the spot where maybe things would start to settle down, but apparently we decided all the way into 8 before things would settle. But here we are, lap 2 going into 3, and I'm seeing 3 wide still.
And you were right, Greenhill leading over Brown by less than 1/10 of a second. Shizik running in 3rd, about 7/10 back. Then Burris and Birdsey rounding out the top 5. You can see the rest of the field scrolling around on the bottom of your screen, so you can look for your favorite down there. 1 lap complete into turn 5 for the 2nd time, and a lot more spacing at the front of this field than I think any of us were expecting, as Elevan Goulart is on the charge here. He's making a move to the inside of Casey in turn 5.
Former champ in this class, wants to get up near that front as well.
Did a great job of it. Started all the way back in the 14th starting position, and Elevan Goulart at the line was up to 6th. So plus 8 spots on that opening lap. Little bit of tire rub there, and a car off track as well. These guys push it to the absolute limit because in Spec Miata, there's just no other way about it if you want to make time. 3 wide here, coming down the hill into turn 8. It does sort itself out down to 2 abreast, and finally single file with that group heading into the carousel under the Speedville Bridge.
To the inside of Gagliardo. Gagliardo, one of those we were talking, as Tombo mentioned about the Midwesterners wanted to hold off the foreigners, so to speak. That's Michael Gagliardo out of Glenville, Illinois. He's one of the ones that wants to hold them off, but Pardis was having none of that. He was going to take that spot, and now he looks like he's chasing down Rob Hines, another one of the outsiders, I guess, out of the Virginia area.
Love the story of Preston Pardis going off to Charlotte to run the NASCAR race later on this weekend. And it was all made possible because of NASCAR's new COVID protocols that took away practice and qualifying. When they had their road course program put in place for the Xfinity Series this year, they said basically, look, we're going to put the runoffs on the back burner for a year, but it became a possibility. Preston Pardis looking for a top 10 for the 2nd time this year in the Xfinity Series, if he could do so at the Roval. He's just on the outside of the top 10 here at the runoffs in Spec Miata, and I'm really curious to see now, Larry, if this second group of 2 can run down the leaders, and if so, I suspect they're going to work together to try and ensure it is one of the 4 of them that wins this race.
Yeah, so looking at these 2, again, that story of the wanting to maintain and hold home ground here with Greenhill and Brown, both of them there out of this area, but Brown from Muskego, Wisconsin, Milwaukee region zone right now running up in the 2nd spot, and he's going to try and push Greenhill around. They should be working together as the 125 is off. And that should be Alan Stubblefield.
I believe that's down in Canada Corner, if I'm not mistaken. Alan Stubblefield, as you see, from Texas. Some damage to the front of that race car as well. Drop back a little bit further. This is the 144 that we're taking a look at right here. Brandon Collins, yep. Fighting with Danny Stain. Jonathan Davis around in that mix as well. As the battle continues at the top of this field, Greenhill leading by 1/10 of a second. The fight in Spec Miata as fierce as ever at the 57th annual SCCA National Championship Runoffs. Look at this through the fast turn 7. It's maybe a brush of the brake and a Spec Miata through that area, carrying a lot of speed. That's when you're by yourself. When you're in a pack like this, it becomes a much more difficult proposition to find your way through. So many hungry drivers here in this class, and so much close racing. It's what makes Spec Miata so special. This is the front of the field, though. A 4-car breakaway at the front, and now this second group forming up into a line as well. And if they know what's good for them, they're going to work together to try and run down those leaders.
Yeah, and remember in that top 4, we haven't talked about him much, is Todd Burris. And how have we not talked about him? As last year at VIR, he was on the pole and went all the way on to claim victory gold medal for Todd Burris. Is this group now avoiding the emergency vehicles there at Canada Corner. But Burris, he did not have a very good June sprints up here. Struggled to stay in the top 10. Was struggled on Tuesday and Wednesday qualifying here. Was able to put in a very solid to get himself into the top 4 here on the grid. And here he is, running very strong, able to avoid some of that mayhem that Drago was not able to avoid.
But this changes everything. Double yellow from the flag stand. So that erases the advantage that the top 4 had built. 3 laps complete, coming around to complete lap number 4, and it's Greenhill leading the Spec Miata field.
Today's broadcast of the SCCA Runoffs is brought to you by Mazda. Feel alive.
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
It's happening more often, and that's not surprising. People are getting lost to find themselves. And discovering the best part is often hidden in the journey along the way. The first ever CX-30. Performance that inspires with available iActive all-wheel drive.
Under full course yellow at the 57th National Championship Runoffs. Ryan Marine and Larry McLeod in the booth. Tom O'Gorman down on pit lane. Spec Miata National Championship race, and it is still our pole sitter, Kyle Greenhill, showing the way with 4 laps complete, working lap number 5, but doing so behind the Corvette pace car. This race has had a little bit of everything. Some heavy favorites early with problems. Jim Drago all the way down in the 33rd spot after went off on the opening lap. Several others shuffled back, but that's given opportunities to others. Elevan Goulart, for instance, charging up from 14th on the grid, now running in 7th, has been as high as 6th. Rob Hines, another one who had a qualification effort in the teens. He is well on his way to achieving the goal he told me he has for this weekend, the top 10, maybe in the top 5, and just his second appearance in Spec Miata at the Runoffs. Among others, plenty of stories. As we take a look once again at the start of this race, and this was that crucial moment. 2 heavy hitters off track early.
Yeah, as they just got a little bit tangled up there coming through 6. And then kept this action going all the way down. You could see them 5 wide coming down this hurry downs, and it just, nobody was willing to give an inch.
Jim Drago and Wojtek coming back on track together, causing that stack up and then nowhere to go. Drago that time the victim, perhaps in both instances, able to whip that car back around and rejoin the fight, but man, it doesn't take long, and you've dropped 25 spots in a Spec Miata race.
Yes, it did. And to watch Partas barely sneak out of there, as he's now running in, trying to find how far down he ended up. He's in 8th, but to come out of there virtually unscathed was just didn't get spun around, so he was kind of lucky there. It's just, he's kind of lucky. He was on the inside. You saw Stain with him. Stain didn't quite come out as clean. He's back in 17th, so just a little bit. Partas is able to kind of keep going. Stain not, and that's that little shuffle. That's how fast things move around here in this huge field.
Several drivers, I'm sure, quite happy to get this full course yellow. It resets the field, but the top 4, Greenhill, Brown, Chizik, and Burris, not at all thrilled, I'm sure, because they had checked out. A rare sight to see, just 4 Spec Miatas running by their lonesome. So much carnage behind them gave them that opportunity, but now they've just let about 70 other cars into the fight here that they had monopolized before this full course yellow.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some pretty big names. Obviously, we've been talking about the Midwesterners wanting to hold ground with Greenhill and Brown, but you've got Todd Burris, defending champ. You've got Elevon Goulart, who's won this class before. Preston Pardis has won this class before, and they're just a couple spots further back. And now all of that gap they built is just gone. A couple spots further down, Matt Reynolds is kind of sneaking around back there. He had won E-Production just a couple of years ago, so he's kind of itching to maybe pick up a couple of spots. But here we go with the same thing we saw in the opening lap. Now everybody's bunched up again, and everyone's starting to feel a little bit more hunger going, okay, I survived that opening lap. Now what? Do they make the same mistakes going through 5 and 6 on this, and even through 8 on the restart here? See how fast that this crew can do here from this Road America team. And they've done a fantastic job all week they've done hot poles. They do poles like this. They've been doing a really good job, and I'm sure they're going to get this cleaned up. This is just a lot of body work from this car kind of scattered across the track, which is why we had to go behind the car.
It does take a whole village to make an event like this work, and whether it's the drivers and their crews working long hours to get on the track, to the volunteers and the flag workers as well, the safety crew. And for so many, the SCCA is a jumping off point. I mean, for many, it's a destination, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's so much you can do within the club, and you can have a lot of fun with it. But for those with professional aspirations, whether it's driving or flagging or what have you, this has always been ground zero for attracting new talent, new blood into motorsports and into road racing, and some really exciting news along those lines in the last week or so with the SCCA and IMSA announcing a combined effort aiming at connecting with race fans, finding ways for fans who didn't even know they could be a part of the show to find their niche, whether that's behind the wheel. There's a lot of great avenues to do that. Track Night in America, autocross, you name it, all on up to the racing. Time trials. Exactly. So many ways to get behind the wheel. But also, if you're interested in flagging, there's avenues of getting involved in that respect. Volunteering, which is always crucial to any club weekend, let alone an event of the magnitude of the Runoffs. Some really exciting stuff, and the partnership with IMSA provides perhaps a destination point for those who want to be in road racing professionally.
Well, I know Mike Cobb and John Doonan, when they had their virtual town hall about a week and a half ago, I guess about a week ago now, the two of them were just really excited about this partnership and what it could bring in the long run. No formal plans yet exactly announced, hey, this is exactly this and this, but just seeing that these pillars of motorsport at the grassroots level and then the highest level of IMSA are now just kind of handshaking and saying, you know what, we're here, we're going to do something. I think it's just kind of cool, but having those two guys with John Doonan and Mike Cobb just kind of saying, cool things are to come. I think it's pretty neat.
And you mentioned John Doonan, for so many years the head of Mazda Motorsports in North America, heavily involved. He's been a club member. He's supported club racing through Mazda Motorsports, and it's not a surprise to see that continue into his new role as president of the International Motorsports Association.
Yeah.
Well, plenty of interesting storylines developing on track, and we talked a lot, Larry, about the importance of teamwork in this, and we've touched on some of the big names, Advanced and E Street Racing, but a smaller team that might be a factor as we take a look back at the start. We'll go back into that subject in just a moment. This is how this whole thing got started, and what a wild start it was. Anytime you pack this many cars into a relatively small stretch of asphalt, you're going to have some fireworks. Remarkably clean here for the first half of the lap, as we see here through turn number 1.
Just another 5 o'clock in the afternoon drive home on the turnpike, really? But yeah, and actually it was very, very clean for these first couple of corners. I think maybe that was their plan, stay clean for the first couple. And everybody got through 5 thinking clean was there, and suddenly we got to 6, and clean kind of got through out the window.
Yeah, the run through the Moraine sweep kept it clean, and now here into turn 5. And this is where it's about to get interesting. Watch the 2 cars up at the front. They're going door to door right there. They're about to shove each other off the track at the top of that hill. And that really was costly for several of the front runners in this race. Todd Burris, Jim Drago going side by side at various points throughout the start of this one. And here we go. This is exactly what we're talking about. Look at those 2 cars. A little bit too much curb on the inside, and shoots you right into the outside, and there's just no room with so many cars packed into such a small area. And then look, rejoining the track in front of all this traffic, it causes a log jam, and what's about to happen, there's really not much you can do to avoid it.
They all just kind of got packed in there, just kind of know where to go. Everyone just kind of got sense didn't want to give up their position, because in this race sometimes it is about track position. But all right, well, that's all now behind us. We're gonna reset for a little bit. Interesting that initial contact that maybe has started that sequence, I think was that might have been Wojtek Birdsey with Jim Drago.
Okay.
Drago gets shuffled back. Birdsey was able to get back on track, continue. Birdsey's now sitting in 9th, but he's got Preston Pardus right in front of him. And we know about, Birdsey may want to make sure he stays around Pardus and maybe even try to get in front of him eventually, as Pardus will try and inch forward. And Goulart, another defending champ, or not defending, but another former champ in this field, right in front of Pardus. So you've got Goulart, Pardus, and then Birdsey, who was up on the front row to start this race. That threesome are sitting right now 7th, 8th, and 9th in this field.
And another team I was going to talk about a moment ago, it's the Meatball Racing team. Rob Hines, who's had a great start running up at 6th. His teammate Nick Bruni is running in the 10th spot, both of them from the D.C. suburbs up in Northern Virginia. Nick Bruni's here and having a lot of fun with this. This has been a goal for a long time. He told me his dad took out a loan against his street car in order to finance building this car. That tells you what it means, and Nick's wife Karen and their dog Meatball is here as well. Is a really charming dog, I must say. I enjoy getting to know the whole group, and just one of the many, many stories you find if you walk around the paddock here at the Runoffs. So much goes into this, so much sacrifice, and for Nick, this is all he ever wanted to do. He started off as a crew guy. Basically, they gave him a rag, let him go to work, and he earned his way up, and has been doing a really nice job getting a great start and running in the 10th spot.
Yeah, and that's a lot of folks. Spec Miata is really, it's such a great racing foundation that people say, well, I'll just start in Spec Miata, see where I go. But I think it's turning into that place where it's like, oh, I'm just going to kind of hang out because the racing is just so good.
It certainly grabs your attention, and it doesn't let go. It does appear the lights are off on that safety car. So get ready for the restart. If you thought the start was fun, now we've got 6 fewer laps to work with when we go back to green. Already lining up, trying to get the kind of jump you're looking for. It is our pole sitter, Kyle Greenhill, leading the way in the silver Miata at the start of this line.
Watching Burris in that 4th spot to see when he pops.
Back to green at Road America. Spec Miata National Championship race at the 2020 SCCA National Championship Runoffs. Kyle Greenhill leading this train of cars after a couple of laps behind the safety car. A nice getaway for the top 10, it would appear, and they stay single file until I say they do, and then they fan out once again. Not a lot of patience in this group, especially if you're a little bit farther back. It's all about positioning yourself for that final run from turn 14 to the twin checkers.
And I'm watching that pair back there of Goulart and Pardus dueling it out, those former champs in this class.
Got a car off in the kitty litter at the exit of turn number 1. That is number 24, John Kendall from Three Lakes, Wisconsin, from the Milwaukee region. Another car off track, and it looks like suspension is askew perhaps on the left front, and smart to pull that car into the safety cutoff there, and we can stay green flag racing. Down into turn 5, Greenhill, who has led every lap so far, continues to keep it out of front.
Oh, contact there.
Couple of cars around and some heavy damage now to a few of them. And we'll see if they're able to continue on. That's Elevon Goulart. We've been singing his praises. Great start to this race, but now stranded in the runoff in turn 5.
He was getting tangled up as they were all trying to be the one that leads coming out of 5. And Goulart, unfortunately, not going to be that one.
So much dust and dirt and debris from the cars, dropping wheels at the exits of these corners, and they're all tucked up nose to tail behind one another. Visibility, I mean, if you're in the back of these trains, you're looking through 4 or 5 different windshields just to see where you're going. You throw the dust into the equation. This is why this is one of the wildest races of a Runoffs weekend.
Oh. And now you look back there, and you've got, I see it right at the back of the screen there, you got Pardus with Stain and Matt Reynolds. Again, guys that have won championships in other classes or this class, but it's at this front now, as now you've got a 6-car breakaway. They need to continue to work together to not let anybody else catch them.
The question is, how long will they remain patient and run in single file? What that does is puts together a better lap time for the group as a collective. And so you're basically narrowing down your competition to the group that you're running with. But the further back in line you are, the less willing to be patient you are. And all of a sudden, that lets a new group catch up and throw their hat into the ring.
Yeah, I usually look at packs like this in 6 and say, all right, the first 2 or 3 are usually pretty patient. It's the one that's 4th, and right now that's Todd Burris. I don't know how patient he wants to be, but he is the defending champ. He knows how these races are definitely a little bit more marathon than sprint in some ways. We'll see how patient he is here.
We saw the 56 of Burris go off track a little bit right here in 14, and more chaos, unfortunately, for a couple of these cars, these 80 and the 88.
Sure, Stagio in the 80. 88, Samantha Silver, I think.
See if we can see what happened. Already off track when our cameras caught up with him. Everybody swerving to avoid, and luckily able to avoid any kind of major carnage in turn 14. That corner's so crucial, as we've got Casey off track. Saw that car in the mix of things earlier, very much has been in the wars, and you can see that. And it looks like at least a local yellow to attend to that race car.
Just looking at that second wave there, that would be Wojtek Birdsey and Nicholas Bruni trying to catch up with the back of Rob Hines. But right now they're about 1.7 back, and it's just outside that draft. In this front 6, that they continue to work well together, but I'm seeing what does not look like working well together. That's Todd Burris.
Burris not ready to be patient, at least not anymore. There we do have the waving yellow to alert these drivers. There could be an obstacle or a stranded car up ahead. We see it here. You cannot pass until the next corner station is no longer displaying that yellow flag. So that does take away a potential passing zone, although that is by no means a favorite. But in Spec Miata, you pass wherever you get the opportunity.
Yeah, we'll just call it the behaving zone at this point. At least they just have to behave through there and then take it back up when they get around carousel.
Greenhill, Brown, Shizik, they've been running in the top 3 for basically the whole of this race. Burris got shuffled back at the start, has done a nice job to recover, running in the 4th position. And we've got Henderson and Hines trying to hold on to this lead draft, but Henderson seems to be struggling a little bit to keep up with the 4 cars up ahead of him.
Yeah, and I think that Birdsey and Bruni are kind of fading into the Partis, Stain, and Reynolds. That formidable threesome is really going to be catching them quickly. You can see them there heading up to the Billy Mitchell bend.
Up the hill they come, and starting to fan out a little bit, this lead pack. The patience starting to wear out, coming around to complete lap number 7. 13 laps or 40 minutes the race distance, whichever comes first. And as we're still being shown the number of laps completed, leads me to believe we are on pace to complete in under the allotted 40 minutes.
It's 2 laps in a row. Burris is not getting a great run off of 14. He's really not on the back of Conrad Cizik at all, and that's kind of surprising. But he's obviously in the draft, kind of poking out, filling mirrors. But kind of a sign for later in this race that if he's able to pick a spot, how good of a run can he get off of 14? And I do sense that Tyler Brown and Kyle Greenhill are working very, very well together to make sure that there's no popping out, there's no movement. These 2 are going to make sure that it's a Midwesterner on the top step.
And this is the fastest group in the race right now. Brian Henderson, 5th in line, just did the race's fastest lap, a 2:44.698, but that's just over a 1/10 of a second off of what the leaders did. By the way, the top 2 did identical lap times to the 1,000th of a second, Greenhill and Brown, the last time around. These cars are so close in their preparation. It leads to such close racing, and it means as well, if you do something good, if you win one of these races, you have earned it. It often does come down to the guy behind the wheel.
Yes, and you mentioned about the 2 identical laps. They are attached at the hips, literally. And we've been talking about the Birdsey and Bruni pairsome there, and just watching Stain and Partis just hunt them down. They could just smell blood. I don't know that Partis and Stain have anything to get close to this front 6, because this front 6 is behaving relatively well.
But as soon as that ends, you start losing momentum running side by side, and a group that is behaving itself can catch up pretty darn quickly. This race is often described as a chess match. You're trying to think several moves ahead of your opponent. That's a wild ride. That's the number 13 car. Trouble identifying that one, but happy to see able to rejoin without too much drama there.
Anthony Garacci out of New York.
But back to the chess match aspect of this race, there is some debate about where you want to be positioned, making that final turn for home, coming up the hill out of turn 14. And typically, being in first is not where you want to be, although maybe if there's a teammate nearby who can help you out, that changes the equation. Do you have any thoughts on where you would like to be?
It's been a lot of talk this week about that chess match of do you want to be in the lead or do you want to be second? And the consensus is you really don't want to be third. You need to be probably second, although what I'm seeing here is some pretty good runs, but having that buddy, now here we are with 4 laps, 5 laps to go, some fanning out, and finally some aggression happening back here.
It is Shizik getting a push from Burris, able to get to the inside, and that might just push Shizik in the red car up to the front. That appears to be the case. Move Burris up into the second spot. A couple other cars able to follow through. Henderson and Hines now into third and fourth, and all of a sudden the 2 cars that were leading this freight train find themselves at the back.
They just went from first and second to fifth and sixth in this train. That's just crazy, and that was just odd. I would have figured, okay, they would give up the 2 spots, but they gave up all 4. Odd. I don't know if there's strategy here. Going back to that chess match of you want to be second, maybe with a buddy in third to get the push pass. So I don't know if this is part of that game of, okay, well, here we are on lap 9. Don't be first.
Well, the battle continues to heat up at the front of this Spec Miata field, coming down to the final 4 laps of competition. And out front, at the moment, it is Konrad Shizik. It's starting to look like a 3-car breakaway at the front of the Spec Miata field now. This has broken off and done so rather rapidly. Here comes Tyler Brown making a move to the inside of our pole sitter, Kyle Greenhill, who has fallen off the pace. And we're left scratching our heads a little bit exactly what happened. This race has been upended, turned on its head, going back to turn 1 on this previous lap.
I don't know what happened here, but yeah, clearly something with Greenhill as the 194 is off at 1. Got his trunk open, maybe just grabbing his golf clubs at the back of his Miata or something. Not the right place to be doing that. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with Greenhill. Definitely something happened there as he was giving up spots coming out of 7.
Here is the battle for the lead into Canada corner. You could move Todd Burris up to the top spot in the number 56, the orange and white car with the black trim. He's able to make that move and make it stick. Coming through Billy Mitchell-Bint now. 3 cars breaking away at the front of this field, coming around to complete the 9th lap. Everybody else trying to find a way to catch back up with this trio who find themselves in firm podium position if things don't change. And it looks like we might be under yellow once again here. Timing and scoring has gone yellow. There we go. Double yellow at the start-finish line. And that wipes away the advantage that trio had built over the course of the last lap. That gives a new lease on life to guys like Brown and Greenhill and Hines, who had fallen off the lead, assuming, of course, we do get back to green.
I hope we do, because it's going to make one incredible sprint for maybe just 2 laps. We'll see what this one's for. This might be for that turn 1 car that we had seen stop just on the outside of 1. Hopefully this is quick. Yep.
Looks like it should be a quick cleanup.
If it is, we could have potentially a 2, or maybe if they can get this just 1 lap and we can get a 3-lap sprint in. But yes, I think Burris, did not have the greatest week to get started, had trouble getting on pace. Suddenly the defending champ finds himself at the front of the field. But strategically, chess match-wise, being in the first spot, crossing the stripe there, leading the last lap isn't necessarily where you want to be. So maybe Brian Henderson, Konrad Shizik, might just let him stay there until that last lap, and then it's going to be a whole lot of popping out, maybe into 5. maybe waiting even till Canada. But if you're in third, you're going to pop because you want to get to second, and then it's defending, and it's going to be a lot of that going on. It's going to get a little bit hairy. But then, we were talking about Preston Pardus. Maybe didn't have enough time to catch up. Well,
that was a big, big hit, and no wonder the 194 can't continue.
Yeah.
Got hit square in the right rear wheel well. And that unfortunately is going to require significant repairs following this race. Credit to the safety crew. They got to the incident quickly and will attend to it as quickly and safely as possible. So hopefully we can get back to green flag racing here. One thing to keep in mind, we've been talking about the importance of experience in a class like this, but our third place car, SCCA, only one previous runoffs appearance. That was last year, finished 13th. We talked about our pole sitter, Kyle Greenhill, only one previous runoffs appearance at Indianapolis, finished 26th. Both of them very much in with a chance, running in the top 5.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you got experience further back, but is there enough time for them to make any kind of moves? So this will be interesting to see if they do or not. But I'm looking at Greenhill with the struggle he had on that previous lap. He is still paired up with his buddy, Tyler Brown, and sitting right now at 4th and 5th. Certainly achievable if they can go green at the start of lap 11 and make that push.
Should also mention Brian Henderson, only one previous start. That was last year. Had a great run to 4th, but at his home track at VIR. He's from Fredericksburg, Virginia. This a bit more of an unknown, certainly for the Virginian here in Wisconsin. So it's an interesting mix at the front of this field, and I think we've had a lot of our teammates separated too. So a lot of that strategy, I know they had a bunch of meetings before the race. What do we do if it's this scenario? What do we do if it's that scenario? You kind of never are sure if that's going to stick anyway when push comes to shove in a Spec Miata race, but certainly now I think it's going to be every man and woman for themselves when we go back to green.
Or as they say, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with, and you find a buddy and you just make it happen, which maybe, perhaps Brian Henderson and Todd Burris will suddenly become good friends here on that front row, work together because they're going to have a huge push from SCCA and Brown and Greenhill behind them.
Now you would think that would be in their thought process here. Again, it's about making sure you're eliminating some of the potential competition. And if you can work together to create that gap, at least you're guaranteeing yourself a chance to finish, the top 3, 4, 5, whatever that breakaway group might be. But it's hard to think in the big picture sometimes because every position is so valuable and you don't want to wait too long. And I suspect we're going to have a lot of urgency on this restart because at best we're going to be looking at just a couple of laps remaining.
Yeah, the comment that Preston Pardus made to me this morning was, you can pick people off and you can make passes around here, but you better do it inside of a nice way because very likely they're going to counter and they're going to come right back at you. And if you were way too aggressive and you got a slow exit off the corner, they're going to stick themselves right on your door the next time by. And you're not going to be able to hold that position, and they're going to make it really hard on you. So think about that when it comes to if you're in 5th, 6th, 7th, trying to make your way up on this next lap.
Well, for Todd Burris, this is his 5th runoffs appearance. We mentioned the win a year ago. That's his only podium to this point. He does have another top 5 on top of that. 3 times he's finished in the top 10 in Spec Miata. But without a doubt, last year's win at Virginia International Raceway was one for his CV. Big feather in the cap. Curious to see. Looks like the pace car has accelerated away. So it will be Burris leading this field back to the green. He has control of their pace. Already getting a nice bump from behind from Brian Henderson, the 147. SCCA behind. Tyler Brown in 4th. Kyle Greenhill, the pole sitter, in just his 2nd runoffs appearance, looking very strong in 5th. Back to green here as the field of Spec Miatas roars up the hill. Just a couple of laps remaining. Todd Burris at the front of this pack, and it's a breakaway of 5, maybe 6 cars behind them. Well, chaos reigns as everybody fans out fighting for position. Now up front, the battle is on as well. That's a look to the outside from the 07 of Tyler Brown, but he's got to get back in line. Did not have drafting help as he took the peak to the outside, runs a little bit wide on the exit of turn 1. Through the little jaunt to the right under the Briggs and Stratton Bridge, that is turn 2, and into turn number 3. Out front, Todd Burris leading the way, but it's going to be a dogfight to the end, Larry.
It is, and I'm just watching all that dust. The next group there with Denny Stain being one of them. But everyone trying to push, trying to get into that top 10. But this front foursome, and then you've got that 5-6 right behind them. It's just nobody wants to be first, but everyone wants to be second. You can see it right here with Cizik trying to come up on the outside of Henderson.
That opens the door to the inside. Here comes Tyler Brown, able to get there kind of with the hip check there, able to assume the position. Cars go flying off turn 5 a little bit further behind, but we're side by side for the second spot. Big save from Cizik, able to gather it up, but Greenhill is there to capitalize, put him up another spot. Oh, wild ride there back in the pack. So much dust. That's a blind corner on entry. It's now a blind corner on exit until that settles down. Here we go. The fight is on for 4th as Greenhill makes the move to the inside. Cizik shuffled back once again. Rob Hines now making his way to the outside in the black and blue Miata.
Greenhill trying to stay planted with Brown. He wants to stay with his buddy up there. And then have a shot to get up to that really coveted second position as they cross the stripe for the last lap. So here we are just on the lap 11 out of 13. Everyone, the chess game is really underway here.
These yellow flags have really upended this race a couple of times. We've seen breakaways, 3, 4, 5 cars, only to have those advantages erased by the full course yellow. And that has led to some wild, wild restarts, as is customary in Spec Miata.
The announcer's dream, the yellow flag, that brings the field right back together again. Isn't it great?
You won't hear me complain, that's for sure. Through Billy Mitchell Bend, coming around to complete yet another lap. Coming down to the wire, just a couple of laps remaining as Todd Burris in the 56 leading this freight train.
Look at the speed he comes off of 14, the lack of it. He does not have a good run off of there every time, but look at the push he's getting from Henderson, though. If this were last lap, he would just be sitting duck.
That's what we're talking about. Where do you want to be coming through turn 14 for the final time? Just a couple of laps remaining, spreading out a little bit further back. The front 2 remain in alignment, but here comes the 07 of Tyler Brown, taking a peek to the inside. So the white flag out the last time by. Just under 4 miles remaining to settle a national championship.
So the chess match begins a lap earlier than the count. We're doing this. So again, everyone wants to be second, and this is the position that they're going to want to do this. They're going to want to go into 5, maybe get up to that second spot, because if you can't do it here, pressure's on to get there going into Canada. Look at the leaves blowing. This is just epic. And you're going to watch Burris get defensive. Although, if he wants, the problem is if you try to give up 1 spot, you're going to give up 3.
Here comes the pole sitter Greenhill getting to the inside, challenging for the lead, and there is contact. Off they go. Sweeping through is Hines, I believe. We'll check that number in just a second, but the blue and silver car gets up to the front.
Should be Brown.
That is Brown, you're right. Tyler Brown from 3rd spot, able to take that position when the front 2 cars had contact, and Greenhill is off. Something appears to be wrong with that car. Oh my goodness,
Keep
the
your eye on
drama here.
Pardis is, watch him right on this, because now he's just catbird seat. He's ready to pounce.
Pardis started this lap in 7th. He is up to 3rd. Remember, he's got a date with the NASCAR Xfinity Series tomorrow.
He's willing to do an extra lap, though, I think, here and catch his flight, even if he has to catch a later one. I think he's willing to.
And we do think this race has been shortened by a lap due to time constraints because of those yellows. That's why the white flag came out earlier than anticipated.
Watch him pop. He's going to pop, and this is the battle for 2nd place on this corner so that you can have a chance on the final straight. He's going to push the leader so he can come out of this Canada corner in 2nd.
Really crafty stuff from Preston Pardis, but it's side by side for the lead in front of him. Which one does he follow? Side by side through Canada corner. Wild ride off the track from Brown. He's able to reel it back in, and Pardis through the grass. right side wheels in the green stuff, hangs it on the outside through Billy Mitchell Bend. It's going to be side by side through 14, and then the drag race up the hill. Preston Pardus in the 42. The 07 is Tyler Brown. Through the final corner and up the hill they come. Where is the drafting help going to come from? Where will that materialize? It's behind Preston Pardus. Has not led a lap all day, but he leads the one that counts. It's going to be a photo finish at the stripe, but give the Spec Miata championship to Preston Pardus.
Wow, what a finish. And it was from Canada all the way through Billy Mitchell, all the way up to the top of the hill for Preston Pardus. And you said it, he was 7th when we started that lap, and he went, hey, there's a white flag. It's time to get work done, and he did it.
Amazing finish, 87 thousandths of a second, separating gold from silver. Brown, 0.2 of a second back. Actually, that was the last time by, excuse me. So Shizik, 79 thousandths of a second away from the win. Hines is able to race his way onto the podium. He thought top 5 might be out of reach when I talked to him earlier this week. He's going to bring home a bronze medal. Henderson and Brown come home 4th and 5th. Spec Miata never disappoints.
Well, I've got to have to mention, we talked about the Midwesterners wanting to hold back the non-Midwesterners. Well, the non-Midwesterner from Florida wins it, but guess who we got to push from? Conrad says it. Guess where he's from? Jupiter, Florida. Guess where Preston's from?
Yep.
New Smyrna Beach, Florida. So, little help from his Florida buddy to get that push. He wouldn't have won that without that extra push.
The second national championship now for Preston Pardus. We talked about the elite company that you would be joining. This class is so competitive. To win more than one has proven to be a real challenge. Jim Drago has done it, but he was the only one in the field who could say, yes, I have won the Spec Miata championship more than once. Well, he's got company now in the form of Preston Pardus, who is turning himself into a road racer of renown. When you get the call up to run in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, that is a very good sign for how well regarded your skills are. And believe it or not, the skills he just demonstrated in this Miata, they will transfer to the big old stock car. It's a much different car, but a lot of the same properties remain the same as he goes off track, pumping the fist in celebration, 2 fingers out the window signifying, yes, I've done it again.
Yep, he waves to all the flaggers and the corner workers that are out there. And his buddy Todd Burris, last year's champion, we both raced for the same team. Their cars are prepped by the same shop. He ran right up there next to Preston, give him a big wave. Yeah, that's going to be pretty exciting pit lane here as they come in.
And his 2 national championships have come at Indianapolis.
Big track.
And Road America.
Famous tracks. He loves and drama. Because remember in Indy, he came from a chess match movement, right? Didn't want to lead coming across stripe, but want to take it into one. This time the chess match was, got to take it coming out of Canada. And he did.
Very similar in a lot of respects, those tracks. Long straightaways. You're playing the drafting game. You're trying to think 3 moves ahead of your opponent. And clearly, that is something that Preston Pardus excels at.
With apparently no right side mirror in play.
Who needs it? You're not looking in your mirror. You're looking out the window. That's where you're trying to go. No sense trying to look backwards. Amazing race. So many ups and downs. A couple other notable performances. We saw Todd Burris run towards the front. He gets shuffled back, ends up in the 8th spot. Danny Stain, hard work for him, but he does get up into the 9th spot. That's remarkable. Nicholas Bruni, who I talked about earlier, able to get into the 6th position. I know he will be absolutely thrilled. Remember, that's the car I said his dad took out the loan against their street car so that they could build this thing. I'd say a run to 6th did Dad proud.
In this field for sure.
There is Preston Pardus into some of the most coveted real estate in motorsports. Victory Lane at the Runoffs and specifically at Road America. America's Nürburgring, America's National Park of Speed, whatever you want to call it. It's probably apt. It is a majestic place in a perfect setting to host an event of this magnitude. Tom will be talking with Preston here shortly, and I cannot wait to hear what he has to say about that last lap from 7th to the win. High emotions in victory lane. Preston Pardis has earned his second SCCA Runoffs National Championship in Spec Miata, and Tom O'Gorman is with him.
Preston Pardis, I only have one word. How?
I don't know. I thought we were on it a few times, and unfortunately Todd got into it there at the end, and it gave me a big enough hole to get to third, and I don't know. That backstretch, I was going to try to push Conrad, and then I wanted to push Tyler, and I wanted him to go deep into Canada like that to let me go 3 wide and do a crossover, but I couldn't do it on the East Street guys. I'm so emotional about it. My dad didn't make the trip this weekend, and he's the reason why I race these things, and I couldn't thank my family enough. 5X Stannis Utilities, Daytona 1, East Street Racing, like I said, G-Lock Brakes, Hoosier Racing Tire, and SCCA for all the support out there.
Well, congratulations. Good luck in Charlotte, and congratulations on your extra lap.
Well, so many people to thank. Of course, it starts with the dad, doesn't it always?
Always. It's because what this is all about the family gets you into the family keeps you going.
So Preston Pardis has earned a second SCCA Runoffs National Championship, and that move, he made an allusion to it. The move for the lead was to the outside, 2 wheels in the grass, coming up the hill to Billy Mitchell Bend, a frightening prospect in the best of circumstances, and he gets it done.
Oh, that's unbelievable. And to make it stick, and then to come around there, and then just kind of side by side and say, well, here we go up the hill, and then to get a little bit of push from Conrad up that hill to kind of help him along. Just beautiful, beautiful finish.
That push was everything. 79 thousandths of a second, the margin of victory for Preston Pardis. Conrad Shizik coming home in second. Rob Hines, a great run to get up into the 3rd spot. Rest of the top 5, Brian Henderson and Tyler Brown. Then we got Nicholas Bruni from Virginia in 6th, Wojtek Birdsey in 7th, Todd Burris, Danny Stain, as well as Michael Gagliardo coming home in 10th. Back down to Tom.
Conrad Chachik, 2nd place in the little NA that could, something that nobody expected from this weekend. Was there ever a point in that race where things were going to plan?
No, there's never a plan in these types of races. I mean, you just got to make it up on the go. Particularly with that last caution there, it kind of caught us off guard. We were really hoping it'd go green till the end there, but man, those last laps or last lap was absolutely insane. I did everything I could. I tried to work with those I could, but at the end of the day, you got to take care of yourself. You got to look out for yourself. I tried my hardest. Preston just got us there at the line, but man, what a week, what a race. Absolutely fantastic. I couldn't be more thrilled.
Scrambled and hustled to a silver medal. Congratulations, Conrad.
And for Conrad, that was his first medal at the Runoffs. Congratulations indeed to him. For Rob Hines, who finished in 3rd. He is a former national champion in the T2 class, won that back in 1999 at Mid-Ohio, and he's standing by to talk with
There's a little
Tom.
more contact in this race. A couple things happened. I was just trying to keep my nose clean, stay with the leaders, and I got up to 4th, but then I got pushed off in 7, so recovered from that, and some guys in the last lap had a little issue in 5. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I was able to make it through to 4th, and then up to 3rd on the draft on the front straightaway, so super excited.
A lot of excitement in the 3rd place race for Rob Hines. Congratulations on the bronze medal.
Thank you very much.
It was a lot of excitement for Rob. It was for us as well. Can't wait to see the highlights of this here in just a few moments. In fact, right on cue. Here we go. The start of this race, looks like an easy cruise down the interstate, but it's anything but when you've got 74 other Spec Miata drivers trying to take the piece of real estate that you're sitting on, especially for our pole sitter, Greenhill, at the front, who led the bulk of this race before having some issues towards the end, but there you see him at the front. Pretty clean, all things considered. I think to our great surprise, Larry, the first 4 corners were as clean as can be, but then all of a sudden you had moments like these.
You have a little bobble here and there, a little too much curb, setting it out, and then things got a little hectic for a minute. Yellow flag tend to calm things down. We had this little moment about 2 corners after the previous one we saw, but things then settled into a pretty good race. We had a couple one-car incidents that brought some yellows out, but then we got back to some fantastic racing for what just was an epic, epic finish.
It was indeed. Unfortunately, that incident took Jim Drago out of contention, a 2-time champion of this class. There's some contact a little bit further up. That sent Burris off on a wild ride. Here we go. This is where the race was settled. Side by side, first and second. Preston Pardus in the 42. Watch this. Zip to the inside. Doesn't matter, that's not paved. We'll take it anyway. And around the outside through Billy Mitchell Bend from 7th to the lead on the final lap of this Spec Miata National Championship race. But it was not a done deal until they got out of turn 14 and Conrad Chizik decided who he was going to push. Which horse was he going to back? It turned out it was Preston Pardus, and he pushed him all the way to the victory. Chizik came home in second. Rob Hines right behind in the number 4 car, taking home the final step of the podium. But Preston Pardus, for the second time in his SCCA Runoffs career, is a national champion in Spec Miata.